They were anxiously waiting in the doctor's reception area. It has been almost 2 years of trying to get pregnant and nothing has been working. The doctor entered with a sad expression on his face. As he sat down, he squeezed his nose, reluctant to look them in the eyes. What he'd say would shatter their world. Max Patterson was a fine arts graduate. He was 27 years old and it was his life goal to be a well-known contemporary artist. But to make a bit more money, he took up a job as a concierge. He couldn't help but feel unfulfilled. He had done so many amazing things in his life, but something was missing. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story. Max met a beautiful woman named Casey who was living at the hotel he worked at. She was older than Max, but the two shared undeniable chemistry. 2 years after meeting one another, the pair got married. The joy that this marriage offered Max was beyond anything he'd ever experienced. Despite this, he still felt empty. Max couldn't understand why the feeling won't go away. He was living his dream life with the best partner possible, so what could be wrong? Casey was a fantastic listener, so he decided to talk to her about what was going on. He informed her that she had made a massive difference in his life, but something was wrong and he couldn't pinpoint what it was. Casey listened intently and responded with, "I've been feeling that way as well." Max felt relief wash over him. They spent hours talking about what they could do to fix this. Eventually, they concluded that having a child was the answer to their problems. They had no idea that this would be the source of the problems. The pair attempted to get pregnant for the next few months. They were excited and full of hope initially. However, every pregnancy test Casey took came back negative. With each test, their hope began to fade. It was clear that something was preventing them from achieving their objective. Both Max and Casey were raised in huge adoptive households. As a result, they desired above all else to establish their own. A large family would give their marriage the boost it needed. It broke their heart that they were unable to get pregnant. They began discussing visiting a doctor as they needed help desperately. They decided that it was best to approach a doctor. Casey felt like she was the reason they couldn't get pregnant. Max couldn't believe what he was hearing. She was perfect. If anyone has a problem, it's him. They scheduled a meeting that night, and by the following day, they were on their way to the physician's office. Max held Casey's hand tightly as they arrived at the hospital. He could feel the sweat dripping off his forehead. He had no idea what he'd do if he were the problem. Casey hugged him, wanting to reassure him that everything would be all right. Max smiled and hoped for the best. Max and Casey sat in front of the doctor. The couple recounted their situation to the doctor, who kindly advised them not to be concerned. They might have a child if they take the proper steps. For their tests, the doctor ordered them to different rooms. After that, he met down with them and explored various options for having children, such as adopting. Was that something they would be open to? Max and Casey went home that day feeling more hopeful than they had in a while. They would return for their results in a week. Before Max and Casey knew it, they were back at the doctor's waiting to see why they couldn't get pregnant. The doctor walked in with their results. He sat, then stood up, pacing for a minute before sitting again. What he said broke Max's heart. "The problem isn't with either of you," the doctor said, "but your DNA is nearly identical." "Identical?" Max asked, his heart shattering within. "Yes," answered the doctor. "This means you two are closely related. It's why you're having a hard time conceiving." Max's jaw slackened. He turned to Casey, seeing the crystalline tears that streamed down her face. His heart broke for the second time that morning. "Cousins?" she asked, and the doctor shook his head. The doctor took a deep breath and handed the couple their files. "You two are twins," he said. "Impossible," Casey choked. "She's older than me by 2 years," Max said, trying his best to keep his composure. He wrapped his hands around Casey, squeezing tight. "How is this possible, doctor?" he asked, his sight hazy with tears. "Well," the doctor leaned forward, "you two were adopted into your families, correct?" "Correct," Casey said, and Max nodded. "You were both conceived through the same round of IVF, in vitro fertilization," the doctor said. He pointed at a page in their files that detailed everything. "What happened is your mom decided to have Casey first instead of twins. Max, you were frozen as an embryo for 2 years." The doctor wiped his face. "Your biological parents died in a car accident. The state put you up for adoption when no relatives claimed you. Sadly, your adoption papers failed to mention you were siblings." Max and Casey went home in tears that day. They knew they'd come to the end of their matrimony. A month later, they annulled their marriage. Although they were sad, they knew they could still explore a relationship as brother and sister. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.